Two things can be true at once. The 49ers can put Brock Purdy into that favorite for the QB1 position publicly, which is what John Lynch did today right here at the Biltmore in Arizona. And the 49ers can still like Trey Lance. Hell, three things can be true at once. They can also like Sam Darnold. So for the first time, John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan, one of the two, came out today and said, yeah, Brock Purdy, he's earned the right to be our top quarterback when he's healthy. I think that was obvious. There are people freaking out about this online, acting like it's something controversial just because they've been having unnecessary arguments about it over the past 2 months since the NFC Championship game. But guys, when you're head and shoulders more efficient than the other option on the team, and that's the track record so far for Brock Purdy, has been a lot better over his sample than Trey Lance has been over his sample with the 49ers, you're going to have that spot if you're healthy. Obviously, Brock Purdy's not healthy right now. We're expecting him to be back and throwing within about 9 or 10 weeks, 12 weeks from the date of surgery. It's going to be on June 2nd. We won't know more about his exact timeline until that point, but for the time being, it doesn't really matter. For the time being, we're at the status quo. This is what we already knew after Brock Purdy played so well throughout those 8-9 games in the 2022 season moving into the playoffs. He is the 49ers top quarterback right now. Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, who they've also added to the room, will have a chance over this offseason to make up some ground because Brock Purdy's obviously not going to be throwing the football until June at the earliest. So that's what John Lynch said today, and I thought one of his quotes expressed the non-binary thinking that a lot of people on social media have a problem with, right? He said, two things can be true at once. We can like Trey Lance, and we can also say that Brock Purdy's better than him right now. It's exactly what John Lynch said. Sam Darnold's also in that mix. It was interesting. John Lynch said that the 49ers watched the Carolina Panthers tape from last year and that Sam Darnold played his best football over those 6 games. This is something I've talked about a lot. I did the film review on Trey Lance. Ton of play action concepts, a lot of run game for Carolina over those 6 games. The 49ers saw the Panthers running what the 49ers like to run, and they saw Sam Darnold fit well into that system. He was setting up yards after the catch. The Panthers and the 49ers finished tied atop the league for yards after the catch per reception. So both of these teams ask their QBs to set up yak with good precision placement in the short game. After Sam Darnold took over in that 6-game split to end the season for Carolina, the Panthers were number 1 ahead of even the 49ers in yards after the catch per reception. So Sam Darnold obviously did a good job, and the 49ers saw that. They think he fits into the system. They're really, really excited about that. Let me just go through, what John Lynch talked about today. It was about a 26-minute session. Articles up on The Athletic. You can check it out at the link on the comment section. We have a $1 per month sale going on for 12 months here for The Athletic, so make sure to hop onto that. $12 a year for the most in-depth 49ers coverage there is. I go through all of this in the piece that is linked. But first of all, 49ers, they lost a lot of free agents this offseason, right? The Tier B, Tier C players, or Tier 2, Tier 3, whatever you want to call it, still good football players. Basically guys that were not A-listers and were up for free agency. Most of them have gone. John Lynch mentioned Mike McGlinchey, Daniel Brunskill, Jimmy Garoppolo, Sansom Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, Aziz Al-Shire, Jordan Willis, Jimmy Ward, Tarvarius Moore, Maurice Hurst, Emmanuel Mosley, Hassan Ridgeway. That's a lot of departing free agents. John Lynch spent about 5 minutes thanking them for their service. The one person that he didn't mention was Robbie Gould, because Robbie Gould's not gone for sure yet. The 49ers traded for Zane Gonzalez, the kicker, on Friday, but as I said, no guaranteed money in that deal. It's a 7th-round pick swap, which is nothing in 2025. That's not, that's not a significant amount of trade capital, especially since it's a pick swap. You're not even losing a pick. But on top of being a pick swap, it's a conditional pick swap. It's probably not going to even kick in unless Gonzalez makes the 53-man roster. I asked John today, is that the move at kicker? And John Lynch said no. That's a move at kicker. The 49ers are probably going to still do some more. Now, Zane Gonzalez is different than Robbie Gould in that he's got a strong leg. Robbie Gould's obviously going to be 41 years old. The leg is not quite as strong as Zane Gonzalez's leg, but he's Zane Gonzalez can boot that football. He's connected on a couple field goals of over 55 yards in the past couple of seasons. Didn't play last year due to an injury. He's not as accurate as Robbie Gould. Probably can't depend on him as much as you can Robbie on some of those, 30 to 45 yard kicks, which are the most important ones to be good at in NFL and high crunch time situations. But if you're the 49ers, there's nothing to lose. A 7th round pick swap, again, is very minimal, and that salary is not guaranteed. There's nothing to lose by increasing your option power kicker, giving yourself other options in case the draft doesn't work out. There's a strong class for kickers with Jake Moody, Jack Podlesny, those guys. That doesn't work out. You've got Zane Gonzalez on the team. You build option power, especially when that option power can be attained with a little to no downside. But anyway, Lynch went through the over 5 minutes, he went through the many 49ers players who have departed in free agency this offseason. Has not yet mentioned Robbie Gould because he remains an unrestricted free agent. Then John Lynch talked about Brock Purdy. He says that he's the leader in the clubhouse for that QB1 job if and when he's healthy. And that if and when, well, around June 2nd, which is 12 weeks from the date of the surgery, we're going to have a much better idea of his timeline. That's when Dr. Keith Meister and Keith Coker is a physical therapist, but Dr. Keith Meister works with Keith Coker, who is a physical therapist here in Arizona. Both of those guys work a lot with baseball players and pitchers because Purdy has an injury that's more common in baseball, the UCL. It seems like he's in really good hands. 49ers are really confident with it. In fact, Brock Purdy's dad, Sean Purdy, used to be a pitcher in the San Francisco Giants organization, and supposedly Keith Coker, the physical therapist, has worked with his dad. That's what John Lynch said that he thought had happened in the past. So you've got renowned names working with Brock Purdy, both on the doctor-surgeon level and on the physical therapy level, and they expect an update in about 12 weeks. I might see Brock Purdy here tonight, the NFL owners meetings party. The league party is tonight right here at the Biltmore in Arizona, and Purdy obviously lives in this area, in the Phoenix area. He's around with his big brace. Maybe I'll get to see the brace in person at the party later this evening. Keep you updated if he does roll through, but John Lynch said that it would be a possibility. I mentioned Trey Lance, Sam Darnold. Lynch laughed and said, somebody asked if the 49ers would be willing to trade Trey Lance or if they wanted to trade Trey Lance, and John Lynch said not at this time, but he didn't rule it out. He's joked around. He started laughing. He said that Kyle and I, Shanahan, we joke about trading each other, trading ourselves if somebody gives a good enough offer. So it's obviously not something that I think the 49ers would do minus a really, really compelling offer, because they love the quarterback option power that they have, because they just ran out of quarterbacks 2 months ago in Philadelphia. And I think they learned their lesson. We better have as many as possible to be able to get through these marathon seasons. And also, now QB injuries and QBs leaving the game due to injuries, that's only increasing because of the concussion protocol rules. It's a good thing. You don't want a guy to play concussed, but as you saw with Josh Johnson in the NFC title game, he gets yanked out of the game. He can't return due to the concussion protocol. They're identifying this stuff much more frequently now. You better have more quarterbacks at the ready. And also, they're talking about new league rules here at this owners meeting about re-implementing the third quarterback rule. The 49ers are very in favor of that. John Lynch thinks there's momentum toward that. And if you are going to allow 3 quarterbacks to be up on game day, which, again, it seems to be trending toward that, you better have 3 capable quarterbacks at least on your roster. And that's why the 49ers like their setup right now with the 3 on their roster, with Brock Purdy, with Trey Lance, and with Sam Darnold. Now they just got to get all 3 of them healthy so they can compete. But Lynch did laugh off the notion that a trade could happen. 49ers are almost certainly going to pick up Brandon Aiyuk's 5th-year option. It's got to cost them about $14.2 million. That'd be fully guaranteed money in 2024. Because Aiyuk has not made a Pro Bowl, he has no escalator money there, so the price is set for wideouts at $14.2 million. If Aiyuk had made up to 2 Pro Bowls already in his time, his 3 years in the league, then that would have been a $19 million price tag for him. But it comes at a little bit of a discount for the 49ers. I know he tweeted the other day talking about how he wants to take off here even further in 2023. And if he does, well, Aiyuk's going to have some real leverage entering the year where presumably the 49ers and him are going to try to execute that contract extension. That's when they have done it in the past for players in the same boat, the first rounders who have that 5th-year option availability. You do it after year 4. Now, Is a trade a possibility? Because John Lynch said that at these meetings, like at these owners' meetings where I'm at right now, the NFL Combine, anytime the league gathers, he gets asked a lot about Brandon Aiyuk. The league thinks that he's a rising stock. Obviously, I think that's proven to be the case. 1,000-yard season this past year. Aiyuk mentioned that came as the fourth option in a run-first offense. Not so sure that he's the fourth option, but I see what he means. The 49ers have a lot of other options, and he still had a 1,000-yard season. Well, in the case of Brandon Aiyuk, I think the league recognizes the route running talent that he possesses. He's one of the best man coverage beaters in the entire NFL. And the 49ers have certainly noticed that there's interest about him. At the right price, anyone is obviously expendable. But I think you have to have a firm replacement in line for somebody like Brandon Aiyuk. And, the 49ers roster building strategy is one of draft well, pay your A-listers when they come up for extensions. So maintain the A-listers, add an A-lister if you need to. Somebody like Javon Hargrave. It's not Javon Kinlaw and Javon Hargrave. They pronounce it differently. But anyway, keep those A-listers in the fold. And as the salary cap grows with growing revenues over the course of every single season, you can pay more A-listers. Your core can get bigger. It's a good thing they don't have to pay Brandon Aiyuk until next season. They don't even have to next season, technically, but it's a good thing that the contractual schedule with which the 49ers operate with regarding extensions doesn't really kick in until next offseason, because the cap, I think, still needs to get a little bit bigger for the 49ers to fit both him and Nick Bosa in. This is Nick Bosa's offseason as a 2019 first-round pick. And John Lynch is confident they're going to get that done. The 49ers do have a really good track record of getting deals like this done. John Lynch cited that track record again. But Bosa this offseason, Aiyuk's fifth-year option picked up this season, and then you move forward. And if something happens and you're blown away by a trade offer, and if the cost-benefit analysis means that you do ship him and you do have a good replacement ready to go, yeah, you can't rule anything out. But I think as of right now, as we're speaking, the 49ers obviously are going to keep Nick Bosa. He's totally foundational. And if Aiyuk starts, doing the same stuff that he did last year, if he explodes again, 49ers might consider him a foundational piece as the cap grows. You just can never say never in the NFL, but that's where the 49ers stand right now. Speaking of cost, the draft is not going to cost the 49ers all too much this year. Only $1.05 million against the cap on the top 51 rule. I reported that the other day because of displacement, and because only those top 51 hits count in the off season, and because the 49ers don't have a pick until number 99, which is late in the third round. So you see the draft is slotted. The most expensive picks are the top 10, and then it gets lower and lower with each subsequent pick. If you don't pick until late in the third round, like the 49ers do, even if you have 11 picks, they're not going to cost so much. So 49ers have the biggest gap between top 51 draft class cost and the actual cost because of the displacement effect. It goes down from 9 million to about 1.05. So they're going to be able to fit it into their type cap situation, which features about $5 million in space right now. But John Lynch said something interesting. He said, I'm happy we don't have a lot of high picks because I think that this draft is all about the depth, that there isn't as much differentiation between the top level guys and the mid to lower tier guys. And this is the second time that Lynch has brought that up, and I think Adam Peters has brought it up too. So the 49ers, it seems to be working out for the 49ers, at least with the way that they're looking at this draft class. Now, this is the first time in the regime's history that the 49ers haven't owned a first or second round pick. I think it might only be the second time in all of franchise history that that's happened. But because of that, they're going to operate a bit differently, and they have operated a bit differently in their prep. John Lynch has actually worked backwards in his scouting evaluations. He's gone, when he's making his draft grades for guys, he started at the bottom, 7th rounders, undrafted guys, and moved up toward the 1st rounders. You never know when a 1st rounder or 2nd rounder is going to be, homework that you need to do. 49ers scouted Sam Darnold in 2018, even though he went number 3 overall, and it paid off later. Their homework can always come full circle. But long story short is that Lynch has inverted the preparation process this time to be more ready for where the 49ers do pick, and that it's 11 picks from number 99 all the way to the end. All right, so I mentioned the draft. Ooh, Javon Hargrave. This is going to be interesting. Probably finish with this. I mentioned Purdy. I mentioned Lance. I mentioned the players that the 49ers said their farewells to today. And that didn't include Robbie Gould, so I talked about Zane Gonzalez. I talked about the NFL rule changes to the third quarterback rule. I talked about Bosa. I talked about Aiyuk. So that leaves us with our final piece of business, Javon Hargrave. 49ers signed him for 4 years, up to $84 million. A lot of money. You'll remember when I was in Indianapolis, a little bit cooler than here, although it was good weather in Indy. Can't talk too much crap about Indy this year. A month ago when I was at the Combine, the answer from John Lynch when I asked him about the potential big money signing at defensive tackle, because I knew the 49ers had this hole, his answer was, you know what, like, we'd love to do it, but I don't think we have enough money for it. I don't think, that would cost us through the ears. That's what John Lynch said. 2 weeks later, they spent through the ears on Javon Hargrave. So what was the difference? Was John Lynch lying? What happened? I don't think that he was. He said today that he actually, with Kyle Shanahan, they had the same thought as I did, as our YouTube channel did. They thought that the interior defensive line needed a splash. So he went up to Jed York, 49ers CEO, and said, hey, we'd like to spend here. Do you have enough capital for us? Are you willing to invest enough money in this offseason so that we can make a big splash at defensive tackle? And Jed York said, I am all for it. Just make sure that you get a difference maker. I don't want a bunch of average players. So they went out and got the best defensive free agent on the market. Now, the reason why you need a lot of money from your owner is if you don't have a lot of salary cap space, if you're working with a limited amount of space, to fit that contract under the salary cap, you need to spread out the cap hits. And the only way that you can spread out the cap hits is if you give that player a big signing bonus or option bonus paid as a signing bonus. They gave Javon Hargrave both. They gave him a $23 million signing bonus. That's money Jed York had to pay right away, and a $6 million option bonus that's fully guaranteed that kicks in next year. So by giving Javon Hargrave both, the 49ers made a massive financial commitment this year to continue rolling this train. And it took a meeting with ownership for that to happen, because the 49ers have spent a ton, right? They are aggressive spenders. They re-signed their own. They've got Nick Bosa coming up, Deebo Samuel, Eric Armstead, George Kittle. Yeah, go back to Jimmy Garoppolo. They spent a lot of money back on him in 2018. The 49ers have had a lot of success, so they've had to pay players, and yet they're still managing to be cap compliant. But they do realize that at some point some restraint is going to be necessary, and they've shown the restraint in other spots. I've talked about it a lot this year with the salary tricks that they've been using to rein in every cent of spending, because those dollars saved add up. But they thought that they were going to have to let off the gas this year. They don't want to become the Rams, who have had to start paying these cap bills because they deferred too many payments in the future. But if your owner is willing to put out that signing bonus money, you can spend without that spending gut punching you as much as, if the contracts are structured in a different way. And Jed York acquiesced. He said, okay, I'm going to do this. I want a big time signing. Let's go for Javon Hargrave, and that's why the 49ers picked up the top defensive free agent in the market. So that meeting, I think, was a big deal. Shanahan, Lynch, Jed York made it happen. All three of those guys are here. I've seen John Lynch so far. I haven't seen Shanahan and Jed York yet, but I'm going to have a lot more content after my conversations with both Kyle Shanahan and Jed York here from the Arizona Biltmore. So go ahead and make sure to check out that article up on The Athletic. $1 a month right now. It is on the page, so make sure you go check it out. It is a great week here. I'm getting my tan. I'll be here for a couple more days, and I'll be delivering the 49ers news as we prepare to turn the calendar into April. Everybody take care.